Hello guys, I am back from another video talking about what if Deku was the only boy with a quote-unquote quirk. So in the last video we talked about we talked about where the little facility that Izuku and the rest of the, pseudo servants are basically living from now on. And this facility is located in the mountains of Japan, and it's a pretty remote area. And the leader of this group, or should I say the ringmaster, her name was Mash Kiriolite. Yes, as in the Mash Kiriolite from Fate Grand Order. And unlike in the original canon, she was treated as shit, and so she basically left the little dimension, don't even ask, the little dimension that, all of the mages of the world basically decided to escape to because, don't want to be dealing with those people there. And so she would basically plan on making her revenge on that dimension. So, Izuku is currently now one of the most recommended members because they're technically a mercenary group, being paid in money and also in allies. So, we also talked about all of the powers and also the heroic spirits that they're basically fused with, but I'm just going to be talking about Izuku instead because I don't want to be talking about the rest of them for now because, too long. So, Izuku is fused with, Kukulkan Alter, which is just the Alter version for Kukulkan, which is overpowered. Then we have Lancelot Berserker, which he has the ability to basically gain, like, any weapon that he basically gains, he basically is able to master it without any thought or reason. And his final, heroic spirit is Jack the Ripper Berserker from Fate Strange Fake, which, oh boy, he was overpowered in the story, but thankfully he was stopped by Archer Heracles. Yeah, there's apparently an Archer Heracles as well. So, after a while of basically just talking, even interacting with each other, Izuku would basically wake up from his little nap as apparently it's his birthday, where the rest of the other pseudo-servants would basically give him a present. In this case, a freaking fighter jet, which, thanks to the help of which Ryder decided to quote-unquote borrow it from a nearby military facility. And after he basically rode on it for a while, they would be told by Mash that it's finally time for them to get a brand new job. In this case, they're gonna be planning on taking down the League of Villains. Or at least, their leader, which apparently is a girl by the name of Shigaraki. And apparently they had some beef. More specifically, the people that basically ordered them to do it is the Japanese mafia, otherwise known as the Yakuza. So, after being told of this, they would be told to basically go to sleep because, they need to, get enough energy for them to, take them down. So, yeah. So, she would also tell them to basically try and, destroy the morale of the heroes in this world. What do I mean by this? Well, by killing some of these students. More specifically, the heroes in training. And that includes a certain girl from Izuku's past. And so, that is basically what happened last episode. And so, let's talk about what happens next. So, everybody was getting ready for their little mission to basically kill the leader, or at least the quote-unquote leader, of the League of Villains, which, at the time, the Yakuza met up with Shigaraki, and not the actual leader of this group, aka All For One. So, yeah. So, they were told to basically kill just Shigaraki, and the others is just basically just a formality. So, Izuku and the rest of the, other, pseudo-servants were basically there, as Mash is basically just, wielding her shield, as she's basically wearing a variant of her, typical attire. What do I mean by this? Well, it's her, battle outfit from, I think it was from the Fate Grand Order movie, specifically the Temple of Time one, which, by the way, I watched and it was awesome. Oh, god damn. Anyway, so, as everybody's basically getting ready, as Izuku would basically come out, wearing his, typical, I guess you can say pseudo servant like attire, which is this. He's basically wearing this, including the helmet, which is this one. Yeah. So, Izuku would basically come out, basically growling and getting ready to basically murder anybody on his, list. As Mash would say this. Alright guys, so, let's have some fun. So, for, Ryder, he would start to create his, noble phantasm, which is called Santa Maria, which is the name of, Christopher Columbus's ship. As he would basically start to, float everybody into the air, and as for Izuku, instead of riding on the large, ship, he would start to ride on his newly acquired jet. Thanks to the help of, those, whatever the hell you want to call them, those tentacle things, which he would basically stab into the, I guess you can say, top of the jet. He would start to turn it into basically a similar texture to, his, like, guns and many other weapons. So, they would start to fly away as they would make it towards the USJ, which currently the USJ attack is currently starting, which let's just say like everybody's basically there, including some of the students of UA, specifically Class 1A. And some of the students also include Bakugo Katsuki, which Izuku is definitely gonna have some fun with her. Not in the, sexual way, but more like in the, oh, I'm going to take my revenge way. But he doesn't remember her, so, yeah. And also his, sister, aka, wait for a second, his sister, Izumi. So, after they arrive, Santa Maria would basically be on top of the USJ, as all of them would basically fall down to the ground, but as for Izuku, Izuku would basically drop down from his, jet plane, as the jet plane would basically be destroyed. As Ryder would say this, "You destroyed my plane!" As he would basically just growl at him, as he would say this, "You're right, that is yours, so you can do whatever the hell you want with it. But still, that was pretty expensive." So, he would basically jump down, like all of them would basically jump down from the ceiling, as all of the villains would basically look at them. As she would say this, specifically Mash Kirillite. "So, you must be the League of Villains, I'm guessing." As everybody would basically look at them, as one of them would say this, "Wait, that's a boy!" As all of them would start to laugh, saying, "Wait, why is a boy here? We're just gonna easily kill him." And also maybe the rest of the boys there. As they would start to laugh even more. As Mash Kirillite would say this, "So, Saber, Berserker, you can have your fun. And the rest of you, kill all of them." As he would basically start to charge over, Izuku would start to create several clones of himself, as he would bring out several guns, like for example, sniper rifles to the goddamn minigun, and also Gaibolga. So, he would start to charge over start to charge over there, as he would start killing everybody. Everybody would be horrified seeing that these boys were super powerful. One of them would start to, charge over there, basically getting ready to stab Izuku right in the back, but Izuku would basically jump over as he would scream out his noble phantasm, Kairoid Konok, which he would basically cause several Gaibolga, clones to basically appear out of her, like a freaking... I can't remember that toy, but it basically just it, like every single, clone of, Gaibolga would basically burst out of her, as several chunks of flesh and blood would basically come out. As a certain, girl, aka shaggy-haired girl, would basically see this, as one of them would say this. Specifically a villain. "What are these monsters? What the hell? They're supposed to be boys. I thought boys were supposed to not have..." As one of them would basically see behind her, as behind her was Saber. As Saber would say this, "Now, time to die." Wait for a second. He would say, "Take this, Durandal." As he would basically stab into the girl, as the villain, or girl or whatever, would basically be bursted open. Thanks to this noble phantasm, everybody would be horrified, as the rest of the people there would basically be killed, except for the students of 1A. One of them specifically says this, being the leader, or at least the quote-unquote leader, of the League of Villains, aka Shigaraki. In this world, she is a girl, obviously, as she would say this. Kodagiri, grab the nomu for God's sakes! As she would say this, being Kodagiri. Yes, master. As she would start to use her portal quirk, as the nomu would appear. The nomu would resemble a large muscular humanoid girl, with a bird-like head and several bulging veins. As she would say this, Nomu, kill that bastard over there, the one with the weird suit. As Izuku would start to look over, and his glowing red visor-like mask would start glaring at the Nomu. As he would start to charge over, there, as he would say this, Arthur! As he would basically start to charge and basically stab into the Nomu with his, large, massive ass claw over here, this one. As he would basically scream out, Thyroid Konak! As several Gaibogas would basically burst out of it. As, well, this Nomu would not be effective. As she would say this, being, Konagiri. It seems that this boy seems to have a quirk. In fact, it seems that all of them seem to have quirks. As she would say this. What the hell? Boys are supposed to not have quirks. And besides, that boy's gonna die from that Nomu. As Izuku would start to glare at, Shigaraki, as he would start to glare even more, as he would grab, I think it was the name of that sword, let me check. He would start to grab this sword, otherwise known as his erudite. As Izuku would start to charge over there, grabbing his sword and basically start slashing at, the Nomu. As the Nomu would not be affected by it, he would start to grab the large knives, which are from Jack the Ripper, and started using them. He would start to create several clones, as he would tell all of them to basically start shooting at her immediately. They would start shooting guns, even freaking grenades, as it would not be effective. As she would basically start to laugh, as she would say this, Seriously, boy? That can't work. Besides, the Nomu has regeneration, shock absorption, and super strength, and you can't defeat it. You're gonna die just like the rest of your damn boys over there. Like the rest of your damn so-called friends. As Izuku would hear this, as he would start to get even more pissed, as he would grab, this, aka, wait for a second, grab Erendite, as he would basically charge over there, as he invokes his noble phantasm, as he would scream out, Take this, Erendite Overload! As he would start to slash at the, Nomu, at the head, all the way to her bottom, as it would start to create a sound similar to a chainsaw, as a burst of red light would appear, as it would basically destroy the Nomu once and for all. As when Shigaraki sees this, she would say, Impossible! Impossible! How the hell? How the hell? You cheater! As she would start to charge over there towards Izuku. As some of the heroes would basically arrive, as you would see the carnage ensuing. As one of them would say this, Wait, those are boys! As one of these boys, more specifically, one of the pseudo-servants specifically, what's his face? Archer would see them, as he would basically bring out his, crossbow, as he would say this, Now, face the power of the forest, and face my judgment. You bow! As he would shoot out a large arrow, which, when this arrow was thrown at one of the, heroes, let's just say a random hero, as he would start to burst open, as a large, a large tree would basically appear, as they would start to smell a poisonous gas, as everybody would start covering their nose, thinking that it's probably some sort of weird-ass gas or something, as one of them, specifically Femme All Might, which is, self-explanatory, would say this, What in... As she would basically start to look over and sees one of the boys there, or more specifically, Izuku, as she would start to charge over there, going towards Izuku. as Izumi and Bakugo would also see this, as Bakugo would basically start to charge over there to basically go into another, attack, basically proving herself to be, the number one hero here, or at least the new number one hero. So, she would start to basically charge over there to get ready to, backstab Izuku. As Izuku would see both of them basically charging at him, as he would grab two guns and start shooting at them. Bakugo would barely dodge, which she would get a little scar on her face from one of the bullets, as All Might would get shot and pelted with several, bullets. But she would basically persevere and start charging towards him once again, as she would say this, "Take this!" As she would basically reels up her hand, as she would scream out, "Texas Smash!" As she would basically punches Izuku right in the mask, breaking it. As when Mash sees this, she would say, "Well, that bitch." As everybody would see Izuku's face for the first time. As Bakugo would say this, Izuku? Deku? What happened to you?" As she would basically start to, walk over to him. As Izuku would start screaming, saying, "Kill Arthur!" As he would start to look towards, Bakugo. And remember, she has blonde hair. And she kinda resembles, Saber, aka Artaria. So, oh god, let's just say when Izuku saw her, and thanks to the help of, Madness Enhancement, well, Izuku would start to charge over towards her and basically grabs Gaiboga, screaming out, "Arthur!" As when she sees this, well, her friend, aka her only friend currently, which is, her only friend, which is Izumi, aka Izuku's, sister, or older sister, as she would basically shoot out a blast of flames, basically burning him, as she would say this, "What is going on? And that's Izuku?" As she would say this, "Yeah, it seems so, but what happened to him? I thought boys were never supposed to have quirks. I mean, that's impossible." As she would say this, being Mash, basically in the middle of the fight. Basically just like jumping from the, large stairs and towards, Izuku. As she would say this, "Well, it seems that you've broken his mask. Oh well, guess I'll just have to use this." As all of them would basically be in shock, as one of them would say this, specifically, Izumi, "Wait, are you controlling my brother?" As she would say this, "Controlling? That's a bit of an understatement. I am his boss, after all." As everybody would be in shock, as one of them, specifically Aizawa, would hear this, as she would basically start to, charge over there with her scarf. As she would say this, "Don't test me, you damn bitch." As she would basically grab, Galahad's shield and cut through the, scarf in an instant. As she would say, "What? My scarf? How did it?" As she would basically jump back a little, as she would say this, "Well then, because you broke Izuku's mask, or at least what I usually prefer to call Izuku, but, I prefer to call him Berserker. So, because of you breaking my mask, or at least, Berserker's mask, I think I should probably use this instead." As she would grab a flute, as she would say this, "Now, activate Noble Phantasm." As she would say this, as she would say, "Pied Piper, Ballet." As she would basically start using the flute, as Izuku would start, Izuku's, eyes would start glowing a dark red as well. Both of them. As he would start going into more of a berserker-like rampage even more. As he would gain two of those, large claws from, Kukulkan Altar. As the mask would basically appear once again. But this time much more animalistic. As he would start to go on all fours, as he would start to charge over there towards All Might and the rest of the other heroes. All Might would start fighting him, but he was too strong. As she was still playing it, Bakugo would say this, "I'm guessing that that flute is controlling Izuku." As one of them would say this, specifically, Izumi, "It seems so. We should probably stop her." As she would say this, "You think?" as she would basically start to, use her explosions to basically go towards her. As she would basically break the, you know, flute. As when she, got her flute destroyed, she would say this: "Why, you little..." As Izuku, after getting the, flute destroyed, Izuku would basically stop fighting as he would start clenching, his head. As he would start to scream out, "It hurts! It hurts!" As he would start to crawl, like, how do we say this? Clawing at his hair, saying, "It hurts! It hurts!" As he would basically start clawing on his face as well. As everybody would be horrified seeing this. Every time he claws at his face, the runes, or more specifically the healing runes, would basically start to heal him once again. But Izuku, after a while of basically clawing at his face, he would basically fall down to the ground. As one of the, heroic spirits, or not really heroic spirits, more like, pseudo-servants, would basically be fighting one of the heroes, let's just say, Midnight. Yeah. As Midnight was getting ready to basically defeat him, he would say this. And how do we say it? Was told by, by, wait for a second, God. Was told by Mash, which Mash is basically talking to Assassin, which he's currently fighting Midnight, as she would basically tell him, "So, I used my command seal. If that girl defeats you, and if she tells you to basically spit out all of the information about us, kill yourself." As after giving that command to, Assassin, he would basically start fighting, her. After a while fighting, he would be defeated, as she would say this: "Now, please tell me every single thing that you know about this little group. Please." As he would basically start grabbing the hilt of his, katana, as he would say this: "I will not fail. I will not surrender." As he would basically commit suicide. As he would basically disembowel himself. Basically like seppuku. As he would die. As after Midnight sees this, she would basically start to vomit. Seeing that, as she would say, who the hell did this? And why did he even do that?" As after, wait for a sec. After Mash basically hears his death from the other, pseudo-servants, except for Izuku, she would say this: "I guess we can't bring Berserker back anymore. He's out of our control now." She would basically start to escape, as everybody would basically start chasing her, including some of the heroes and the League of Villains that basically just escaped, including Shigaraki, and also Konagiri by extension. As she would say this: "We should be leaving now. Ryder, summon Santa Maria immediately." As he would say this: "Right at your mercy, master." As he would basically snap his fingers, as Santa Maria would basically appear out of nowhere. As all of them would basically jump back to the ship, as she would say this: "This will not be over, heroes. We'll be back. And this time, we'll become stronger. But, oh well." She would basically leave with the rest of the other pseudo-servants. Izuku would be left behind after, getting his mask and also the flute basically destroyed. So, after everybody was basically settling down after the, USJ attack, one of them would basically start to carry the unconscious body of Izuku. As this person was a girl by the name of Ida. As Ida would say this: Miss Aizawa, what are we gonna do with this boy here?" As she would basically start to carry him, as she would basically flop him down onto the floor. As she would say this: "He was quite heavy, including that large claw of his." As they would see his, calm expression, and seeing that all of his wounds were basically healed. As Bakugo would basically see Izuku. After seeing him basically commit suicide, and after seeing him basically come back out of nowhere, she would say to herself, Izuku, you're alive. What happened to you? As the rest of the, teachers would basically start to talk, as one of them would say this, specifically a hero by the name of Recovery Girl, as Recovery Girl would say this, I think it's better if we bring him to the, school, or the school infirmary, because it seems that he's quite injured, and probably might be tired. So, after, the rest of the, class basically was told to not talk about this to anybody, and also told to not talk about the whole incident, including the, the appearances of, like, quirk user boys, or boys that have quirks, they would basically start to leave. Except for some of the heroes or the teachers. So, the teachers would basically start to carry Izuku and bring him to the infirmary, where he's gonna be resting. As All Might would say this, it's that boy, the one that I told that he couldn't become a hero. I mean, what happened to him? She would basically start to, talk to herself a little bit, as she would say this, what happened to you, young Midoriya? She already knows about his name, because after knowing his, his sister, aka, Izumi, which is, All Might's successor, she would basically get a lot of information, and after knowing that he committed suicide, let's just say she would basically have a bit of a, how do I say this? A bit of a guilt in her consciousness after that little incident, and after that, and after knowing that, Izuku's alive, she would be just like, what? How is he alive? And how does he have a quirk? As she was basically contemplating, basically saying to herself, what is going to be the media, what is going to be the media's reaction after knowing that this boy has a quirk? As everybody is basically just like watching him, as everybody would start to leave except for Aizawa and, Recovery Girl. They would be told by All Might, including Principal Nezu, to basically watch him. As, as usual for, Aizawa, even if she is a girl, she would basically fall asleep on top of Izuku's, body, basically just like, quote-unquote, watching him. As, Recovery Girl would basically just like, sleep right beside them, or at least in a nearby, hospital, not really hospital room, or like in a nearby, like, hospital bed, or whatever, or, you basically get it. So, this is going to be the end of this episode. And so, I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!